Hello, my friends. We are live once again. Fred Hampton, leftist. I have my friend Courtney with us today, and this should be a good one because everyone always like message me whenever they see like Barack Obama in the news, ask me what I think about his latest gaslighting appearance, and we're gonna get into that because I know when I talked to Courtney first time she was on the show, and I have very similar conversations with a lot of Black leftists where we were radicalized almost in the same way if you're in our same like generation where we grew up during the era of Barack Obama where we got our hopes up at first and then we got disappointed and that led to the radicalization of a lot of Black leftists. So I do have Courtney on. Welcome to the show. How you doing, Courtney?
I'm good, man. Excited to talk about this. I didn't expect, I guess, so many people to have such deep emotional reactions to these Obama clips, but I'm glad they did, and I'm glad we're gonna talk about them.
Yeah, Barack Obama. I said it when I was on the Jimmy Dore show. He's going to be a thorn on our side for a very long time. He's very healthy. He got the best health care, live a life of luxury. So he got at least another 30 years, 40 years to be the instrument of halting progress. And people wonder why I focus so much on calling out Barack Obama. The reason I do it because he is playing his role for the oligarchy perfectly. His job is to keep the Overton window to the right as much as possible. So what he's doing here is gaslighting because he's sheep herding people into voting for people who are frackers, who are expanding the military budget. But we'll get into that. Let's get into this clip that you show because I want to let you guys know what we're talking about here. Check this out.
Oh, Lord Jesus. All right.
So they had this climate summit, and for some reason, Barack Obama was invited to speak, right? And
Nick,
this is
can I just say, so when this came on the TV, my parents watch CNN all the time. The only thing that's ever on. And me and my sister were not going to watch this, but the way he strolled up on stage, like, it didn't seem like he was even really scheduled to be there. It was like, you know what? Let me just go up there for a second. And he rolled up like it was
that's
insane. I was
crazy.
like, okay, let me watch this. And then he proceeded to keep that ego the entire time. So it was wild.
the the amount of lies and gaslighting and the narcissism of Barack Obama is insane when you watch these video clips. So let's go over the first one. Let's see what Barack Obama had to say on climate, and then we have many thoughts. This is the first clip. We take it clip by clip because we got a few here. This is the first one.
The first and most important is if you are age eligible to vote the issue. Vote like your life depends on it because it does. I recognize that a lot of young people may be cynical about politics. But the cold, hard fact is we will not have more ambitious climate plans coming out of governments unless governments feel some pressure from voters.
Mhm.
So Barack Obama's response to young people who are concerned about the climate crisis is to go vote.
Right. You
Apparently,
can solve it. Like,
apparently we didn't vote hard enough, right?
right. It's so crazy how confidently he went in there. He was like, I can talk to the kids. Don't worry. And to think that like we have YouTube nowadays. We have Twitter. We can go, but I share so many old clips of Joe Biden being a dirty liar because I don't want people to forget. Our memories are so short, but in this day and age, we can be reminded of the facts. So for him to walk in there as if these kids are kids that are going to a global climate summit. Do you think they don't know what you did? Like, it just how much he undermined them and
That's a good
condescended.
point.
I was like, obviously these kids know what's going on. Like they're here.
That's such a good point, Courtney.
So
This is a comment from Doc. This is my point. I was just about to bring up. We're cynical because of you, sir.
well,
So you guys know that Barack Obama gave $700 billion to subsidy to the fossil fuel companies yearly, and he only spent less than 1% of his budget on EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. He dropped over 20,000 bombs. That's like almost 3 bombs every 2 days,
I'm sure that's good for the environment.
right?
Probably fine.
So he's talking about the carbon footprint of the average American person. He putting the onus on us. Look at his carbon footprint. Look at the carbon footprint of the Pentagon.
Right.
Now, my question is, look at the gaslight that he brought up. Oh, you got to vote like your life depends on it. Courtney, where was the option among the mainstream finance parties for the non-fracker on the ticket?
Well, there was one guy. There was one guy, but then he made some phone calls and he made sure that that guy could not win.
Oh, what guy are you referring to, Courtney? The guy who did everything he could
I think it's
to
Mr.
pull this.
Bernard Sanders. Pretty sure it's him.
I
Yeah.
mean, so there's still a lot to be done even after the Green New Deal, because we need a climate policy that actually tackles the imperial core. But we had a candidate that actually had a climate plan that was worth a damn. And
Right.
Barack Obama did everything he could to tank his presidency. And now he coming out gaslighting, telling people that and pretending that your vote mattered, that we have this sham of a democracy. You know, you can predict, and this shows how fraudulent the elections in this country are. And people have the nerve to try and challenge the democracy of countries like Nicaragua, by the way, because they elect Sandinistas. But you can predict who's going to win a U.S. election with around a 91% success based on who raised the most money.
Oh, I was gonna say based on watching The View. It's pretty literally like you can see who the Democratic Party is done with and who they're okay with based on The View. And it's like a direct line. But the thing
What
about oh, go ahead.
I was about to ask, whatever happened to Kamala going on the View? Did that not happen?
So she did go on The View, but that whole thing was a total setup because it was right after they were still using Title 42 on all the Haitian refugees. And she was supposed to be on for a 2 segment interview. So about like 20 minutes, like 16 minutes, something like that. They called in the middle of the show and said that Sunny and Anna Navarro had COVID, which doesn't make any sense. They take all of these tests way before. And if you're going to see the vice president, you take like the highest level test, COVID test. So there's no way it could be a false positive. So they they pulled them out of the show live. Then Kamala got to do her interview backstage via Zoom. It was cut short. Sunny couldn't grill her on any immigration stuff, nor could Anna. And, she got asked maybe one tough question. Like, there's no way they can let her do public appearances. There's just no way. It's blank.
I was gonna ask you about that earlier, but Kamala Harris' approval rating is at 28%. So the best thing they can do is hide her before she continues to tank the party more. Now apparently the Democrats are like -8 nationally
Mm.
and for heading to 2022. So like everything that we have been saying in terms of what will happen if you elect a neoliberal to go to fight against the surge of Trumpism that you guys actually support as well, that will only lead to another rise of the right wing. We knew this was going to happen. Once again, because people are inherently incompetent, and if you had Kamala Harris on the View or any real long conversation, like she will get destroyed. She will get exposed even more, just like she was exposed in the first time when she went on the Breakfast Club. I want to show you guys this. I want to show you guys this just because I saw this earlier and the topic of the View came up just to show. I don't know what's going on over there, but they had Adam Schiff. And this is kind of a slight change of topic, but since we talk about the View, Aaron Mate was tweeting about this. because the RussiaGate story has completely fallen apart.
Mhm.
um, People who are responsible for the dossier are being arrested for lying to the FBI. And once again, this is not me praising the View, guys. I do not like the View, right?
You got
But this is, but Aaron Monte's point is this is an indictment of our media, where you had Adam Schiff, the biggest pusher of RussiaGate. He got destroyed on the View. You got any thoughts, Courtney? Before I play this,
uh no, go ahead and hit it. I want to be fresh.
well, so I didn't know if I interrupted you, but I want to let me reset the audio here. But I want to show you guys this because I think this is funny. Once again, this is not me praising the View at all, but it says a lot that they exposed this guy, Adam Schiff, who is a fraud, a corporate Democrat at the highest order. I can go all day into Adam Schiff, but watch this video.
So I want to ask you about something that's in the news a lot right now. You've been really prolific over the past few years being the head of the Intel Committee, and you've defended, promoted, you even read into the congressional record the Steele dossier. And we know last week the main source of the dossier was indicted by the FBI for lying about most of the key claims in that dossier. Do you have any reflections on your role in promoting this to the American people?
Well, first of all, whoever lied to the FBI or
So what she's talking about, despite the neoliberal narrative that you're gonna have a ton of Trump people going to prison, the people that were going to prison were a lot of Hillary Clinton allies who was lying to the FBI in order to create the Steele dossier, which they used to justify the investigation into Trump, right? And Adam Schiff was one of the main people who spearheaded this. So she is confronting him, which you would never see on MSNBC or CNN.
Right.
I just want to, you would never see, and that's why I'm like, I saw this. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
On
some
the View?
people will have a gym. That's why they get a little nervous. But it's so interesting because they harped the Russiagate stuff for so long. I mean, I wanted it to be true because I was like, completely in Trump derangement when he first got in. But once you learn new facts, they don't want people to have any, create critical thinking to go into it and introduce any. That's the narrative that they went with, and they're just going to let it lie there and not put as much attention on correcting that, because I didn't know that guy was getting arrested. Kind of a big piece of information,
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people, and this is the thing, just like you, and I didn't have a platform in 2016, so a lot of people don't know, but I was very, very against Trump because I was paying attention to what he was doing on a policy level. And when you pay attention to what he was doing on the policy level, especially when you kind of a foreign policy nerd like me, you see that he actually being tough against Russia when he is arming Ukrainian rebels. He's pulled out of the nuclear arms treaty in Russia. He is literally cooping countries that is allied with Putin, like Maduro and Venezuela. So when you actually pay attention, which I was, because I was like, when they said the Russian connection, I'm like, all right, maybe there's some like financial crimes there, but the whole idea that he's like some sort of government puppet to Putin, I'm like, dude, there is a billion things you can attack Trump for. Like, he's a war criminal. He is running inhumane immigration policy. He's a corporate puppet that giving fucking corporate bailouts. He is funding genocides in multiple countries. He you can attack him as just another
his
steward.
hotel. He was laundering money to his hotel right there in DC, right down the street.
Exactly.
Like, why didn't they get him on that?
Yeah, there's so many things you could actually got him on, and I used to I make fun of Trump supporters all the time because I would tell them like like Trump went after Hillary Clinton because of her corruption with the Saudis. And that was a good point. Her connection with the Clinton Foundation and the illegal the bribes they got from Saudi Arabia that made the Hillary Clinton Secretary of State position be very friendly to Saudi Arabia, and that's just been her foreign policy her entire career, given the weapons deal being very favorable to the regime because of that pay to play corruption. But then Donald Trump got in office and he did the same thing. So I'm like, MAGA, I thought you guys was against this shit.
He did a really good outsider campaign and then did a lot of the same swamp stuff.
Yeah, and then a lot of people were calling Trump anti-war, and he actually increased the drone strike, and he actually ordered the Pentagon to when it comes to counting drone strike deaths, he actually made it harder for them to do that. So he wanted to like cover up the drone strike deaths that he was responsible for. I'm trying to remember the exact provision. I'm sorry, I don't remember on top of my head, but he reversed a provision that made it harder to track the civilians that he killed.
For as terrible as he is, I like that he tries to find workarounds to get what he wants. I just want somebody to do that for good, to be like, you know what, let's not count this way, just for good though, not to kill people. But wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I went on a little spill here. I'm gonna go back to this because this is and the reason I brought all that up because my point is there's a lot of good reason to go after Trump. So when I was debunking RussiaGate, I'm like, I already knew this would be used against the left. I knew this would be used to prop up military budgets and additional covert operations, which will be used against the left, which we already seen right now when there was when they was pulling Facebook and Instagram accounts for Nicaraguan Sandinistas. So they already use this against the left. They were banning activists who protested for Line 3. They were purging them for social media. The same money they gave to the police after January 6th, they used to go after the indigenous people. So you got to understand basic theory. Like if you know the state always expands to go after the left, you don't fall for RussiaGate. Right. You know what I mean? And this is kind of stuff. And people were like, why are you a Trump sympathizer just because you're debunking RussiaGate? No, it had nothing to do with that. Like I want him impeached too. I want him impeached for funding the genocide in Yemen.
Yeah, well, that's why you're a leader, because you can see the bigger picture and you're trying to get people to see that rather than getting stuck in this minutia of where they want us to be, left and right and all of that. When, yeah, you're right. When they use that tactic on the right side, they're definitely looking for a way to use it over here. So,
all right, sorry guys, I'm talking too damn much. So let's play this clip. So hopefully that gives you guys enough background. We didn't get back to Obama as well, but I think this is a good segment here. So let's I'm gonna start from the beginning. So now you guys know what she called him out for being with the main person that spearhead the Steele dossier and RussiaGate nonsense. And now she calls him out for that whole story falling apart, which the media did not cover. Like these people are being indicted for lying to the FBI.
Is she like the conservative lady that they're trying on there?
I think so. Like the thing is, like there's a lot of liberals like, oh, she's got conservative bias. And I'm like, yeah, she does. I got a left bias. Like I don't admit it. So, but if you're right, you're right. Like I don't use that to discredit someone's argument. Like if you have a right winger, like if Tucker Carlson argues for ending the wars, I'm not gonna be like, oh, you're fucking right winger. I'll fuck ending the wars. You know what I mean? So it's just basic.
He says correct things, and other times he's racist. You just that's what it is.
Yeah, but to be clear, guys, I have no idea who any of these people are. So like I don't know. Like I see the view in clips. So I just saw this almost as a neutral observer because I didn't have any preconceived. I don't know who she is. So anyway, let's watch the clip because I think like she dismantles him, whoever she is. She dismantles him. Watch this.
So I want to ask you about something that's in the news a lot right now. You've been really prolific over the past few years being the head of the Intel Committee, and you've defended, promoted, you even read into the congressional record the Steele dossier. And we know last week the main source of the dossier was indicted by the FBI for lying about most of the key claims in that dossier. Do you have any reflections on your role in promoting this to the American people?
Well, first of all, whoever lied to the FBI or lied to Christopher Steele should be prosecuted, and they are. And unlike in the Trump administration, if they're convicted, they should go to jail, not be pardoned. So Donald Trump pardoned Roger Stone for lying. He pardoned Michael Flynn for lying. If people lied to the FBI, they should go to jail. But at the beginning of the Russia investigation,
I'm laughing because you guys see how transparent that pivot is. From the question, he's like, "Well, Trump." Anyway,
got to.
I just want to laugh about that, but I'm not going to stop it too much.
Said that any allegations should be investigated. We couldn't have known, for example, people were lying to Christopher Steele, so it was proper to investigate them. And let's not forget what we learned in that investigation. We learned that the Trump campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, was giving internal polling data, campaign polling data to Russian intelligence while Russian intelligence was helping the Trump campaign.
And to be clear, he was fired halfway through the campaign.
Well, he may have been fired, but the effort to get Russian help continued, and even beyond the effort to get Russian help.
But you
not confirmed.
Spread Russian disinformation yourself for years by promoting this. I think that's what Republicans and what people who entrusted you as the Intel Committee chair are so confused about your culpability in all of this.
Well, I completely disagree with your premise. It's one thing to say allegations should be investigated, and they were. It's another to say that we should have foreseen in advance that some people were lying to Christopher Steele, which is impossible, of course, to do. But let's not use that as a smokescreen to somehow shield Donald Trump's culpability for inviting Russia to help him in the election, which they did, for trying to coerce Ukraine into helping him in the next election, which he did, into inciting an insurrection, which he did.
That has nothing to do with Russiagate.
Did he say inciting an erection?
Yeah, you see, he was so desperate. He invoked January 6th. I think there are 14 more saying. Let's see what else he tried to pivot to.
None of that is undercut. None of that serious misconduct is in any way diminished by the fact that people lied to Christopher Steele.
No, I think just your credibility is.
Well,
but what he was saying, guys, doesn't make sense. The entire premise of Russiagate depended on the Steele dossier. So when you have people who created the Steele dossier who lied to the FBI, that discredits your entire fucking thing. But he was like, that don't matter. He still wanted the Russians to help him, right? Which never been confirmed. Never been confirmed.
He should be emphatically trying to tell the truth just as much as he was trying to seek the truth. You know, you got to correct that. If it's that sometimes when like big newspapers and stuff put something out super wrong, like the retraction's so small, it's like, well, the damage is already done out there. So it's interesting that he's just like, whatever. He wanted to find what he wanted to find.
And to be clear, I am sure that lady is a like right-wing reactionary who is filled with political hypocrisies. I'm sure of that. But there's no doubt, and I see some people in the comments saying it, there's no doubt that she just dismantled him. And she did it without ease, with like complete ease, where you had Adam Schiff that was like pivoting to like, what do the insurrection have to do with Russiagate and the line of questioning?
Right.
You see, you went, well, Trump is evil, Trump is bad. It doesn't matter when you were promoting this thing that was completely not true.
Right.
And the funny thing is that Rachel Maddow is actually getting a lot of pushback. A lot of people are like, yo, you push a lot of this shit out with bullshit. But thing is, what's important is you can't just put it on Maddow because it was the entire neoliberal establishment that pushed this, and that's the important point. And the reason why I share this, because you had Aramate. He's the reason I found this tweet. I wanted to share his take with you guys because he's been doing a great job just debunking this every step of the way. Schiff claimed to have evidence of Trump-Russia collusion and read the Steele dossier into congressional record. The thing that was completely phony, he read into congressional record. The U.S. media treated him as a brave truth seeker when in reality he constantly lied and deceived. How fitting that Schiff's toughest media scrutiny comes from The View, right? What are the chances of that? Schiff is one of the country's most prominent conspiracy theorists, yet instead of challenging him with basic questions, this is the neoliberal media core, MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post. They just parrot him. Like whenever, and this is something that I noticed in Russiagate as well. You have these people that make crazy claims that, yo, Trump was this inside Russian puppet. And then the media like, yo, Adam Schiff says Trump is a Russian puppet. That's your story? Like you're gonna say, you're just gonna like write a story of what Trump political enemies say and just write that as a story? But
well, that's the issue, is the fact that he's not correcting himself in the same way. That's why people completely lose trust. I mean, because then it just seems like, okay, either you guys have just agreed upon this narrative, or the media, they don't really have to question it because they loved anything about Trump, so they're just going to keep that going. And it's just this is why people are losing any kind of trust in government, because there's not that same correction. And Democrats, they want to make it all the way about Trump, but let's just be fair to both sides and actually be better than Trump in that way. But they don't want to really do that either.
And I said it before, I resist all elements of Trumpism, right? And when I talk about Trumpism, I define it 100. I define it clearly. Trumpism is the inhumane immigration policies that keep kids in cages, that deny asylum from migrants that we are responsible for creating with our inhumane foreign policy. Funding the apartheid state of Israel, that is Trumpism. Giant police budgets, that's Trumpism. This is the same thing that Joe Biden is doing. Trickle down economics. This is the kind of stuff that is Trumpism. This is the kind of stuff that real leftists oppose. And I'm not just going to replace one Trump with a blue, nicer, more media friendly Trump, right?
But that Trump derangement, I mean, it's so hurtful to us because, you know, with the infrastructure bill and the Build Back Better that's trying to get through, you have people who are supporting this bill where they're going to be cementing the Trump tax cuts. And it's like, how is that? How can you said you didn't want Trump. You see the situation that we're in. I can tell you a list of policies he's continuing as Trump, and you still are, and people just, it's that total blindness. He's doing the exact same thing. How do you not see that? And that's like, it's really baffling. I don't know how you break that.
Courtney, call me a conspiracy theorist, but I promise you, the entire few weeks, what was it, like 2-3 months of negotiation around the infrastructure package? That was just an entire smoke screen just to give tax breaks to the rich. So once again, at Fred Hampton leftists, we don't buy like this theater of the mainstream politics. And people always ask me, why aren't you excited about the infrastructure deal? We got paid family leave. Like, people used to tell me this stuff. They're like, why don't you cover this stuff on your show more? Why aren't you covering the negotiations between the infrastructure bill? They're like, bro, you know, we invested $5 trillion. I'm like, oh no, we not. Then that number whittled down. And then all of a sudden, paid family leave was taken out. And I'm like, see, I don't know why you guys got your hope up over some bullshit that they are selling you. Wait until the job is done. And now we have a joke of a climate bill, which essentially is a tax cut to the rich. And now they're going to be monitoring the bank accounts of ordinary working class people as well. And the amount of money they're investing is over a span of 10 years, which is a joke when it comes to addressing the climate.
Well, it's over 5 years. I looked at it, but okay, $50 billion for climate change in the infrastructure bill alone. If they don't get the Build Back Better, we spent $91 billion in 2018 on climate change damage in 1 year. So we have 50 billion in 5 years. What is that going to do? It's just like so laughable. And tell me who goes into a negotiation praising the way that it, like Jayapal, she was like, it's great. We still have a lot of great things. Like, no, be mad. Be like, this is bullshit. I'm not accepting this. They just completely acquiesced and capitulated. And it was, we cannot be friends with these people if you want to actually get some concessions. Like praising it was not the way to go.
They are spending 16 times more on the Pentagon. I'm trying to see if I can find the study I saw. But you can't say you are serious about fighting the climate crisis if you are expanding the military budgets, just like Barack Obama did as well. I want to go back to this clip. Let's continue to react to this. We got our boy CJ in the house. Dropping knowledge as always. Trumpism is the offspring of neoliberalism. 100%. 100%. And people always want to claim when they talk about leftist governments, they're like, oh, look at this dictator over here. Look at this dictator. We live in a neoliberal dictatorship because this term that we're looking at right now, Joe Biden, this is just the 11th term of Ronald Reagan. It's the same neoliberal trickle-down economic, giant police budget, military budgets, offensive foreign policy based on the Monroe Doctrine. It's the same goddamn thing. The only difference you get is their takes on the culture war.
Right.
That's it.
That's it. And they're running out of culture wars to actually have. So that's why they're going to actually start seeing like real economic strain. And people are just, and with the climate, like the looks on those kids' faces when Obama is talking, like they're aware of the urgency of the climate crisis. So it's just like, they're not going to be able to just pull people in with, you know, banning books and all these different kind of things. People need actual tangible change in their life. They need money, they need healthcare, they need clean water. Like people need this shit.
And our generation, we are living the results of late stage capitalism. And there's a reason why our generation, we're not having kids. there's just a massive lack of opportunity compared to other generations. But I want to before I ramble, I want to get to another clip because we can spitball all day. Let's check this one out. You mentioned on this clip, you said Obama is so insanely condescending. So let's see why you said that on this clip.
Unless governments feel some pressure from voters.
Look at it.
In one survey of young people in 22 countries, more people cited climate change as one of the most important issues facing the world than anything else. Young people understand this issue, but they don't always vote at the same levels as older folks. Many young people are now starting to realize I've got to make my interests heard if I have the opportunity.
You guys see what you're doing? Guess who he's blaming for the lack of action on climate?
People who couldn't even vote, like there are 16-year-olds there. How can you blame them? Also, how are you going to say this to a generation that did Parkland, that did marches about gun rights? Like, these kids have been involved. Like, this is absolute nonsense. We have so many real world examples that you're just like, how is he saying this with a straight face? It's like he's trying to, yeah, he's just gaslighting everybody.
Young people mobilize and then they use the power of the police state to crush our movements. Because when you see these protests, and yeah, we do have multi-generational solidarity, right? But come on, let's be real. The vast majority of these people at these protests are young people. I know because I've been to a lot of them, like the George Floyd protest last summer.
Mm-hmm.
When we had tenant sit-ins and protests at KC Tenants, it's mostly younger people.
Right.
So when Barack Obama is telling people, the young people, why don't you get involved in politics? We do. When we do it via the outside game, you crush us with your police and your quote unquote civility laws, right? Where we can't even have a legitimate challenge to the state. And then when we do it electorally, you guys see what you guys did during the primary last year. And once again, this is someone I was on the ground, and this was reported widely when you had areas where younger people in universities, they cut polling places down.
Exactly.
So the young people that was overwhelmingly going for Bernie Sanders, they had massive wait lines, and this was targeted. And this is one of the many reasons why we were saying it was rigged. Do you have anything else you want to add, Courtney? And then we can finish this up.
I mean, just on that, like with Democrats talking about voter suppression, it's so difficult to listen to them say these kind of things when that is active voter suppression. And they also knew that a lot of college kids weren't near their polling locations because they'd been sent home from college. So they knew, and they also wouldn't push back, and let people, do vote-in ballots, Tom Perez and the DMC. So they're just as bad. I mean,
everything they accuse, like of Russia or other countries when it comes to undermining democracy is exactly what they do. But let's finish this clip and then I want to get the rest of your thoughts. I'll rewind it a little bit so we get context.
Many young people are now starting to realize I've got to make my interests heard if I have the opportunity to vote. So in the 2020 U.S. presidential election, young people were more likely than older voters to say that climate change was their top concern. And they also voted at a rate 11 points higher than in 2016. That's the kind of thing that makes politicians sit up and take notes. As one 20-year-old organizer said, young people understand that if we want to save our lives and our future, then we have to do it ourselves. And this is part of your power that you have to use.
You guys see, I was like chomping at the bit. It's hard to listen to this guy.
Who is this speech for? Who is this speech for? We're having a climate summit with world leaders. I'm assuming because we all understand that there's a climate crisis. And I just don't understand, who is this speech for? Go in the room with the little leaders of the world and do what you need to do. like we are here telling you this. It's just so crazy. They're trying to obviously wear us down, but it's like, who is this speech for?
Thank you for the super chat, Vincenzo. $5. It amazes me that folks still don't see this guy for the smooth propagandist he is. Like once the mask was lifted for me, I can't unsee it.
Right.
And I said this on the show once, and I say it again. Um, I think I was wrong. I think a lot of people was wrong in the primary when they said that Pete Buttigieg does a bad Obama impersonation. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. Now, like once I see through the facade, and ever since I saw Pete Buttigieg, when I hear Obama speak, I hear Pete Buttigieg. Like to be like straight up, to be honest, like for real, listen to him. Like when you listen to Obama speak, like tone down his charisma by just a few points, and that's Pete Buttigieg. It just Pete Buttigieg didn't have his same level of charisma, but when you listen to him speak, it's the same exact thing. Like dead serious.
Well, because Obama was sure to implant himself into the Chicago Black church community. He was just so strategic, this guy. Like, there's no other way to come. Like, okay, for me, I'm super light skinned. I'm from the country. I don't know a lot of reference. Like, Black people will be like, sometimes like, I don't know, like, what are you? Who, you know what I mean? Obama, it's like he literally, if I could be like, oh, I'm from Chicago, like off the bat, I'd have more cred, but I'm not. I'm from Virginia, you know? And I just feel like he was like, what's the most Black street cred I could get? Okay, go to Chicago and get involved in the Black church. And then he just stole a lot of that, the Black pastors and the way that they orate and all of that. I mean, that's where I think he got a lot of that charisma from. But to me, it was such a strategic move and such a well thought out move that to me, it points out kind of the psychopathy of him.
So we have a few more clips. So let's get to those because there's a lot to say, but he mentioned in that last clip that young people are starting to vote more, right? And my response to him is that's the point. Young people came out and vote for you, motherfuckers. Young people came out and organized for you in Georgia and helped you flip the Senate. And what do you guys give young voters? I got some interesting numbers to share with you guys later in the stream, but young people are starting to reject both parties because they see the lack of inaction. And Joe Biden dropped by 20 points with Gen Z. Young people are starting to see through this shit. So I hope that continues. But people get older and they become complacent. But I think it's gonna be harder with our generation because the climate change is here and the economy is not getting better. Because so people will always assume that like, oh, this generation is gonna shift right when they get older. Well, that happened to the boomers because they got fat and comfortable. Because the silent generation and the generation before them fought for the worker rights that created their boom. So they was left when they was young. They got comfortable and then they shifted to the right. But that's not going to happen in our generation because there's not going to be that, oh, we got fat moment. Like it's
they also have a lot of social safety nets that they've benefited from that they don't want us to have.
They took advantage of a ton of social safety net programs and they pulled the ladder up and they don't understand why we upset. But anyways, let me get to the rest of these damn clips. Here we go. I think I was on this one. There you go. You say on this one, you see young people. The problem is you haven't explained their concerns about climate change well enough to your aunt. That's why we're in this pickle. She surely wouldn't listen to me, a former president, still maintain a high approval rating. Please listen to my pod. So anyway, let's check this clip out.
You need to help educate your parents and grandparents, your uncles and aunts, your teachers.
Oh, I see now. Because Obama, once again, this is him putting the onus on us.
My teachers? What in the world? Okay. Lord.
Why is the onus on us to educate people on climate change instead of the onus being on the ruling class to implement climate justice on companies like Chevron and like these oil companies that knew that there was a climate crisis that was happening, but lied to the American people?
The studies have been there for decades. We don't need to say anything else. You guys have had the information, so act on it.
Yeah, all these big oil companies and this is mainstream knowledge. So by having that prosecution, that spread awareness. Oh, do you see the prosecution of when they went after the big oil companies that lied about climate change? So that's why your tweet is very clever there, because if only there was someone in power that could do something that could raise awareness on climate, if only, right? So let's see what he says here.
You need to help educate your parents and grandparents, your uncles and aunts, your teachers, your employers.
My teachers.
Because while a dangerously warming planet is a reality that a lot of you have grown up with as young people, you've studied in school, you've read about it, it's been part of the backdrop of your childhood. Members of the older generation don't have that same frame of reference. They do love you, though. They do care about you. They listen to you more than you think. And if you explain how important the issue is to you, you may lead them to rethink their position, or at least be more open-minded.
Okay.
In fact, I'm pretty sure they'll listen to you in a way they might never listen to a politician or some expert on TV or a former president.
What?
That is so ridiculous.
Wow.
He's pretending like these conversations will stop the top 1% for being responsible for over 80% of the emissions.
Right. I mean,
Like,
why? Oh my God. I forgot how wild that was. Like,
yeah, let's go on to the next clip. I know we let's do this one. Then I'm gonna give your take. I'm gonna give your take. I'm gonna read your tweet after I do the video this time. What the fuck? I think I'm on this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me say, it will not be enough to simply mobilize the converted. It will not be enough to preach to the choir. It will not be enough.
Dude, guys, seriously, this is Pete Buttigieg. Like, no, take away the charisma. Like, this is exactly some shit that, like, he's saying nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying nothing. Like the same thing that we mock Pete Buttigieg for in terms of having no substance in what he says, nothing but flowery language. This is what he's doing.
His personality really did carry him a lot.
Yeah. So I'm trying to tell you guys, try to remove the charismatic personality away from what he's actually saying. And this is something I learned to do. And so when I hear this, I hear Pete Buttigieg. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off base here, but that's what I hear. But so listen to him. Look, for real.
To just ramp up intensity among people who already know about climate change and already agree with us and care deeply about it. Protests are necessary to raise awareness. Hashtag campaigns can spread awareness. But to build the broad-based coalitions necessary for bold action, we have to persuade people who either currently don't agree with us or are indifferent to the issue. And to change the minds of those fellow citizens in our respective countries, we have to do a little more listening. We can't just yell at them.
Pete Buttigieg. So why, Courtney? I'm gonna ask you this. Why is he pretending he's on our side?
His argument doesn't even make sense. We got you elected. You said you cared about climate change. Therefore, it doesn't matter if my neighbor doesn't believe in climate change. You won. You should do something about it. Same thing with Joe Biden. This is simple.
Yeah, if you was on our side, we won. We won the battle. We won the battle of ideas. We got you a supermajority, and then we did it again. just in case we fucked up again. Yeah, we gave young people. Not me. I didn't vote for Joe Biden, but I'm saying as a collective, we elected Democrats as a supermajority again. We were like, oh, maybe we get another chance, and they still said fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
So in what universes are we on the same team? Right, Courtney? Anything else you want to say?
Oh, we could talk about his thoughts on protesting later, but wow.
Yeah. I'm gonna try and finish the next two clips without interrupting. But you guys see how it's really hard for me to sit through this guy speaking without, like, I have to point out because there's so many subtle lies in everything he say. Like, if you understand, if you have class consciousness, if you understand the policies of the U.S. empire, everything he said for a reason. Everything. It's a subtle gaslight with every single line. It's actually pretty impressive, if not depressing, right?
Or say they're ignorant. We can't just tweet at them. It's not enough to inconvenience them through blocking traffic in a protest. We actually have to listen to their objections and understand the reluctance of some ordinary people. To see their countries move too fast on climate change. We have to understand their realities and work with them so that serious action on climate change doesn't adversely impact them.
That was like an AOC answer about, you know what? Never mind. You said, go ahead, play the next.
This one's only 30 seconds, and then I'll give you a final take on this video as a whole as well. But let's finish this last 30 seconds.
I can afford to give up a lot of my current lifestyle to benefit the planet because I'll still have a lot left over. A lot of folks don't have.
Don't you fly in private jets? Once again, in Fred Hampton Letters, we want to stress the class element of the climate battle. The onus is not on us. The onus is on the top 1%. They are the largest polluters. The top 1%, they emit more carbon emissions than the bottom 3.2 billion people. It's like more than the bottom half. Sorry, the bottom third.
Right.
So it's them. It's the Barack Obama. The Vineyard, his mansion, Martha Vineyard, probably pollutes multiple times more than your entire neighborhood.
Yes.
Like,
Well, notice he said he could, but he didn't say he was doing that right now. He still had a 700 person birthday party where everybody flew in on private jets. Like, you could, but you're not. Why did he even say that? What, like, it's like he's rubbing it in our face.
Have that cushion. So that means that any climate plan worth its salt has to take these inequities into account, whether it's through subsidies to poor people to ease the transition to clean energy.
I don't know.
You're not doing.
They're like, I don't know.
There's something uncomfortable and this is what makes liberals deeply unserious about this issue. So I brought up how the top 1% is responsible for the most emissions. I'm gonna see if I can find an article on that so I can get the numbers 100% right on that. But despite what Barack Obama says and despite what neoliberal groupthink believe, they are unserious on climate change. Not only because they refuse to reduce the military budget, not only because of that, but you gotta understand that when we say eat the rich. In that economic philosophy, well, what you guys want me to say? This is the only way we address the climate crisis by having a real wealth tax, a real one. Like Bernie was good, but that was very once again compromise candidate shit.
Except
you know what I mean?
them, yeah.
Any thoughts, Courtney?
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted something too about like just he is part of the 1%. When I was back in LA, I just heard all of these mansions. You could hear their personal like water fountains on, and people who have mansions in the hills and stuff in LA, and they are CEOs of companies and they own a lot of stuff, and they also donate to politics, and like you can just see for him to say I could do this. But his water, like they're in severe extreme drought in LA and they're just like, whatever, I'm rich. There's always going to be more. I'm always going to be able to take it from somebody else. And it's just like these small behaviors of theirs at the top. The fact that they don't change knows that they're just going to run this shit until the wheels run off. And I just don't understand why he would go in there. He didn't have a plan to offer these kids except for to vote. What are they supposed to do with that? I mean, either you're not going to cut the military, right? You're not going to do that. You keep increasing their budget. We're not going to get off every single continent. That's not going to happen. We're not investing in green energy. You're not making any public transportation that's actually viable for people, except for just giving people credits to get electric vehicles. Like it's so small minded. And there are so many good ideas, especially from young people, and they want to help. And that could be a huge market of all these jobs that we need. And people would be motivated to have those jobs and to have dignified jobs that were actually bringing the country back. But they don't want to invest in it. They could make federal jobs to do that and give people pensions and all of these things. And they just don't want to. And so I feel like after this, like this is like this is kind of it, I feel like. And this to me was just, I guess was the best that they had, and it was very disappointing. And I think it's very reflective of what we can expect with real change in terms of climate.
I don't understand why progressive politicians or people who are still sympathetic to the Democratic Party give them the political cover, the political capital to claim that they are our allies in the climate fight. They are not. They are not. So the one thing they were saying, even AOC even called out Biden on this. I was actually surprised by this when they were pretending that this infrastructure bill will be enough to replace all the lead pipes that was poisoning the water in the country. But like anyone who actually know anything about this subject, once again, I'm not saying I'm an expert. I just read their opinions, right? So they looked at this. They was like, bro, this is not nearly the amount of money you need to do this project. So what are you guys talking about? This is, and the neoliberals and Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden was saying, yo, this infrastructure bill, this will make disenfranchised communities finally have clean drinking water. Also, ignoring the fact that this story came out this year that I covered, that the military is actually dumping toxic waste in disenfranchised communities.
Oh, well,
so good luck with your infrastructure bill fixing that.
Okay, but also, Nick, I saw something that said that the $15 billion of the money that's for the lead pipes is going to basically be in a fund, and the companies can use the money to change the pipes if they would like, but there's not going to be a mandate that they have to. So, I mean, how many of them they're not going to do it if they're not forced to, obviously.
Well said, Courtney. I just want to watch this. I reported this a long time ago on my old show. You didn't see this covered on a lot of different shows, right? The U.S. military is poisoning communities across the U.S. with toxic chemicals. And when you dive into the article and when you look at the communities who is impacted by this, guess who it is? The Black community, the Latino indigenous communities. Because as I explained before, they do this in these communities because they know that a lot of these places won't have the legal defense to challenge this stuff.
I mean, one thing is if rich people will not allow a freeway or a busy road to go through their part of town, or they will petition so there's no extension of the metro because they don't want to mess up their part of town, you better believe that they're gonna make sure that anything that they don't want near them is gonna find their way to a poor community, and that's gonna be a community of color.
Courtney, check this out. This is the details of the story. I want to get your take on this. One of the most enduring, indestructible toxic chemicals known to man, I'm gonna just call it AFFF, which is a forever chemical. You can't break it down. That's what they're saying. It's a forever chemical that cannot be broken down. It's being secretly incinerated next to disenfranchised communities in the United States. And the people behind this crackpot operation is none other than the U.S. military. That despite the fact that no evidence that incineration activity destroys these synthetic chemicals.
Well, to be fair, they do the same thing when they're in other countries and they burn their trash and they make they stand next to it and they just breathe in these chemicals. They don't develop ways to get rid of trash. It's crazy.
The AFF was invented and popularized by U.S. armed forces, introduced during the Vietnam War to combat petroleum fires on naval ships and airstrips. AFF was the whiz kid of chemical engineering that forged a synthetic molecular bond stronger than anything known in nature. So once manufactured, this bond is virtually indestructible. And this is the chemical they was dumping in our community that was getting our water. And now a lot of these people in these communities, they're getting cancers, a lot of birth defects. A lot of people are becoming infertile. So this is what the military is doing to our community. And why do I bring this up? Once again, my point is the neoliberal answer to climate change is not adequate because it does not address this. But you want to see, because I mentioned, can we watch Obama? I want you guys to watch Pete, right? you want to see his reaction on environmental racism? You guys want to see how serious these people really are when it comes to talking about our issues? Check this out. This is actually a shorter version of what I saw. So they was asking about the racism and infrastructure in U.S. policy. They asked Pete Buttigieg this question. I did not realize this is a shorter clip than I thought, but that's the question he was asked about. So he asked about that, and as his role as transportation secretary, listen to what he had to say.
I can't hear it.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Let me fix this.
I was like, is this just me?
My bad. I know what happened. So let's where'd it go? Damn. Hold up.
Come back, Pete.
Did I close the window on accident? Let me find it. But in the video, he pretty much asked about his policy, and he just went on this bill, pretty much saying like, "Yo, it's the way we build the roads, the way we build the streets that reflect racism, and we gotta do better by having investments on that." And to be fair, there's actually a point to be made in what he was saying in the way they segregate communities. But the answer is not through your neoliberal policies, right? That once again, the investment in infrastructure is a joke, and when you look at the real environmental racism, they're not addressing the problems that go on in the U.S. military. Now, I want to bring up this one last story, and I want to get your take on this because I mentioned this before. We talk about in great detail how our leaders is failing in the climate crisis, right? I actually covered and dive into the details of the Paris Climate Agreement. So one thing that Barack Obama was saying at the climate summit, and what neoliberals were saying, they were saying we are the climate champions because we entered the Paris Climate Agreement, right? But I told you guys, anyone who actually paid attention to what the Paris Climate Agreement was and what it actually delivered, it was a joke. Because a giant part of the Paris Climate Agreement was the countries with the largest economy, the top 5 largest countries, will create a funding mechanism that will so poor countries can actually have a green infrastructure, so they can actually reduce their emissions. So a lot of these poor countries, they are not able to afford this stuff. So that's the point of the agreement. Not only do you meet your emission record, you supposed to pull this money together. The first part, out of the 5 biggest countries, only one of them was even close meeting their emission levels.
Mm.
And then that funding mechanism I was explaining to you guys was never set up. So a lot of the countries that was poor, they couldn't meet the emission levels, and that's why when you look at the numbers, less than 20% of the countries was actually compliant with the Paris Climate Agreement. And you know what they have done to fix this problem? Not a goddamn thing. The funding mechanism it still hasn't been set up yet, guys.
Jesus.
But by the way, and you guys wonder why I have critique over some progressive media. What was some other progressive media telling you? Hell, I say I fuck it. I call him out. You had Emma Vitlin that was saying from the Majority Report. She was saying that Joe Biden is the climate president, and her reasoning was when she tweeted. I showed this tweet a long time ago. I don't think I had to dig for it, but she tweeted. She like, "Yo, I know there's a lot of people leftists that don't want to vote for Joe Biden, but you guys think you guys he's the climate. He'll be the climate president because he's getting back in the Paris Climate Agreement." That was her argument. But once again, if you know the details of the Paris Climate Agreement and the failures of them getting emissions down, you would know that was a lie. So I'm like pulling my hair out. Watch it. Like Cal Kalinske said, "Yo, Joe Biden getting back to the Paris Climate Agreement, that's good." I'm like, what? Like, why are you guys saying this shit?
It's not enough either. So, shoot.
Sorry, I wanted to give you guys that background information. I just want to thank Landuro. Thank you for the $100 super chat. Big shout out. Thank you for that. But let's get back to the story, because the reason why I shared that is because young people know this stuff, right? We educating each other here. I learn more about the failures of our leaders in the climate crisis, and they understand this. And young people finally had enough. And this is good to see. Young people are over Democrats and Republicans. New data shows. What that means for 2022. I answered this last part for you. Does it mean Democrats are fucked?
Definitely.
Because, yeah, Republicans may be hurt because to be fair, Republicans lost a lot of young voters too, but that wasn't their constituency they needed.
Mm. Yeah, that's true.
So that's just to answer this part of this this poll. Any thoughts, Courtney, before I start rambling some more?
No, go ahead and do it.
The data here pretty much go over the fact that the participation and enthusiasm for young people in polling and the support for the Democratic Party has dropped. And initial estimates based on exit polling, voting turnout among adults under 30 dropped approximately by 62% in Virginia from 2020 to 2021, compared to a 15% drop among voters. So they're saying the drop in vote is a bad thing. I want to see the number of people who left the party, because I reported on this poll that came from Morning Consult that showed for the first time ever since they've been tracking this poll for 4 decades that 50% of the registered voters are independent. So they're rejecting the Democrat Party. So I think the point of this article, they're saying that the young voters are being disillusioned by electoral politics that can hurt the Democrats. We know that Joe Biden, he recently had a drop in 20 point among Gen Z. I'm gonna be honest. I'm looking at this article. I don't really like this article. I'll be honest with you guys.
What?
I don't like this article. Oh, here we go. This is it. Sorry, this is the information I was looking for. At first, I was like, "Yo, I don't care if people vote for these motherfuckers."
Right.
That's why I was like, "Yo, this is not what I was looking for." But this is what I was looking for. This right here. Only 43% of Gen Z voters approve of Joe Biden's job performance, which is actually pretty damn high. Like compared to where it should be. Compared to 51% of millennials, 46% of Gen X, 45% of baby boomers. So pretty much, this shows the overall drop that the Democrat Party has as a whole, because they're not accomplishing their promises. But if you look at the promises that would be most substantial, it'd be substantial towards young people, like the investment towards, once again, even the milquetoast policies they offered, like the investment into community college, they're not even doing no more. When you look at like canceling student loan debt, like basic environmental protections, that's why Gen Z represent nearly a 20-point drop in approval from June.
I mean, they didn't raise the minimum wage. They could have just given us the $2,000 checks they promised. Like, these are the kind of things. They cut off unemployment also right before the Virginia governor's race, which was stupid. Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing tangible that young people have to vote for.
Peter Dow has a good breakdown here. Because I have covered extensively, and I wrote an entire op-ed about how Joe Biden was a serial liar and a massive disappointment. Check that out on my Substack. But this is another good comprehensive list, just to name a few. No filibuster reform. Honestly, on this one, I told you guys, I differ a lot from the mainstream opinion. My opinion, I understand the appeal of wanting to end the filibuster, right? and I think it's important. But if you think the filibuster is the obstacle for actual progressive leftist change, that's kind of delusional. So if
What about the talking filibuster? What do you think about that?
I'm gonna say this: when has the filibuster ever stopped them, the ruling class, from getting what they wanted? So even if they got rid of the filibuster, there may be a few good things that may slip through, but they will find the votes because they say, "Oh, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin was bought up by big oil and all these companies." Okay, they will just buy out some other blue dog that you don't know right now. That will happen when Heitkamp lost, when Claire McCaskill lost, when Joe Lieberman lost. They just found another person.
Right.
So
I guess I say just do it so then the Democrats can prove to you that they will not take action.
Yeah, I agree with you, Courtney. And to be fair, I do agree with eliminating the filibuster. To be clear, guys, I'm just saying it's not gonna lead to the amount of change that a lot of people think it's gonna lead to.
I see that.
Maybe that's me being too negative, but my point is, when has the filibuster ever stopped the military-industrial complex from getting what they want? When have ever stopped the prison-industrial complex from getting what they want? When has this filibuster ever stopped the Wall Street from getting what they want? Okay, but then this is a great tweet though, because I do think that's a good point. But I just want to add that point. No Medicare for all, no court expansion, pretty much no Supreme Court or court reform, which is massively needed because the Supreme Court is a massively anti-worker institution. Whether it's a justice appointed by a neoliberal or a conservative, to be clear. Ruth Bader Ginsburg had a horrific workers' record and record against indigenous people. She used the doctrine of discovery, which was used to justify the genocide against Native Americans that the Supreme Court used in the 1800s. She used that in order to give oil companies the justification and legal right to build pipelines on indigenous lands. Yes, queen, slay queen. That's the neoliberal queen, by the way. Also, extremely racist.
Right, that part. Katie Kirk made sure to leave that
out. No closing the child cages. On point. Once again, this was the reason why Trump would be beyond the pale, right? No climate action, no family leave, no minimum wage hike, no student debt relief, and Kamala Harris, 28% approval rating. What's your thoughts, Courtney?
I mean, they deserve it. Quite frankly, they deserve it. Because there are, even if they just gave just the bare minimum, like the $2,000 checks, or raise the minimum wage to $12, or even started talking about a public option, like they descheduled marijuana, canceled some of student debt. There are plenty of things he could have done without Congress, and he isn't even pretending to try to win. So at this point, it's like they're trying to throw it to the Republicans, really, because they just mainly don't want the left to rise up. That's what it seems to me. As long as the left doesn't come a knocking, then whatever. The status quo is fine.
And to your point, and that's a great point. There's so many things that Biden can do right now, even without the need of Congress, just through his executive authority, that will accomplish a lot of his promises. But they don't do it because this is the game they play. Whenever there's a Republican president, he's an unstoppable tyrant who has unlimited power that we can't do anything to stop. Right? But then whenever a neoliberal is president, oh my God, there's nothing I can do. Oh my God, the restraints of Congress, man. We just got so many checks and balances. There's just nothing I can do. We have a majority.
And the tide.
And remember, Courtney, what they told us during the primary? They said, oh, we got to support Joe Biden over Bernie Sanders because he'll win over the moderates.
That's right. He knows how to work with people. He has the experience and he gets things done. That's what they told us.
Yep. And it's crazy how people just who just continue to fall for that shit. It doesn't even make any sense. I want to find this. I think I finally found it. This is good. This is a good find from David Schroeder, just to highlight how Obama is such a hypocrite. And this is when Obama, he takes credit for the oil and gas boom. That was me.
He was talking about it. He was like, listen, That was me. And he loved it. And he loves that Republicans love him for it. And that he didn't become as progressive as everybody was scared that he was going to be. Opened up fracking to the Arctic. I mean, drilling and such. This guy's terrible. Oh no, what's this?
This is one of his failed promises where he promised 100 billion for climate finance, which is another broken promise from Obama. It was just so many. This guy is gonna be a threat for a long time because he's gonna be here to continue to gaslight people and drag it over to winnow to the right. That's the role. That's exactly what they're gonna be doing.
You don't think people are starting to see through him yet?
I thought, man, as much as I want to say that, because I reported on the polls and I keep showing how people are starting to give up on the establishment. That was my take in 2020. So I can't get my hopes up anymore. I'm sorry. Because I thought, and once again, I want to admit, I go on here on this show all the time and like, yo, I told you, I called this. I told you guys, I admit when I'm wrong too. I thought that this election was a great chance. And people that follow my early work, they remember I used to say this shit. I'm like, yo, there's a great chance that we get the Green Party to 5% this election.
I'm pretty sure I was following you. I voted green too. I was like, we're gonna do it. I thought so too. I thought that there was like a quiet green. I was like, so many people are gonna vote. They're just not talking about it.
So how did that go? So my mindset was, because this answered your question, like, do you think people are waking up? I thought that the left will actually have a spine this time after seeing Bernie Sanders, like, because I gave Bernie in the progressive movement the benefit of the doubt the first time because I voted for Joe Stein in 2016, and I thought it was a horrible decision to back Hillary Clinton at the time. But there's a lot of people that lashed out and they was like super, and you guys notice I didn't cancel Bernie for that because I was like, whatever, not a big deal. You got just don't fucking make the same mistake again, guys, because I was disappointed that Joe Stein ended with 1%. I gotta say that because I don't fucking believe that. But anyway, that is me. But I report the official narrative, right? So the official narrative is she had 1% of the vote. When I saw that, I was like, what? You tell me that the left voted for Hillary Clinton, which they did, which was shocking to me because I didn't think that was happening. So in 2020, I was like, bro, there's no way, there's no way that we're gonna have the progressive movement tell people to vote for Jim Crow Joe, and that when I started getting my following because after Super Tuesday, when I saw the progressive movement fall in line behind Joe Biden, I was legitimately shocked, and that's why I was wrong. Because there's some people that say y'all saw it coming. I'll be honest, I wasn't at the Chris Hedges level. Because Chris Hedges, like, I knew that was gonna happen.
Oh,
I didn't know that was gonna happen. So I admit I take the L on that one. I didn't see that they was gonna fall in line, so I have no reason to believe that they won't fall in line in 2024.
Yeah.
Until I'm proven wrong, because as much as I want to say the Kamala Harris Pete Buttigieg ticket against DeSantis and Trump or whatever, that will get the Green Party to 5%. That will get the People Party 5% or whatever your third party alternative. I just want another alternative. If there's no alternative, I have no interest. Period. Period. Yeah. So as much as I want to tell you guys that could happen, I don't think it will. Even despite the polling showing people are upset, because once the elections gear up, once the culture war flares up, because you got a lot of fucking people voting for this right-wing asshole in Virginia over culture war shit because they're scared of critical race theory, for example. So
but I will say that living in Virginia, the Democrats didn't even try here. My mom and my dad usually.
That's true.
Yeah. They didn't ask them the phone bank. They weren't knocking doors. They weren't giving people stuff. And they didn't run on policy. Youngkin didn't make any sense. His ads, he was like, I'm going to cut the taxes for groceries. He didn't say why. He didn't say what it was going to. But he said something that he was going to do. And he made promises. And Trump and McAuliffe, he talked about Trump a lot. And just a lot of people, I think just in that way, it's not so much about, yes, there were a lot of racist dog whistling, but I think the Democrats relying on this crazy Trumpism and not actually making things happen, that is completely going to destroy them because people need, like, Trump, that's fine. We lived through Trump. I'm poor now. Like, I still have lost all 3 of my jobs and had to move back in with my parents. What are you doing for me today? You know?
The Democrats' whole gig is pretending to try while not trying. I'm glad that Kyle sees through this. It only took me like one cycle to see this. Like where I used to fall for the kayfabe politics. Once I saw like the cycle of Democrats win, Democrats promise a lot, then they win, then they do nothing, and then they lose because they promise a lot and they didn't accomplish anything. And then the Republican win, then Republican become a tyrant. Then they scares people. People vote for Democrats because they promise things. Then Democrat wins again, and then they disappoint people. And then, but like, how many times do you guys see this? How many? Like to me, it took one time. Like I went through the George Bush, Barack Obama cycle. Once I saw that, I was like, all right, I'm done. I see how this works. Then I look back at the 90s. Then I look back at the 80s. I'm like, okay, so this is something that happens in electoralism.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how. What's your thoughts on that comment?
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, and I just don't see how people can ignore it anymore. I mean, we're gonna have 2 more years of climate stuff happening, and there's gonna be inadequate response to that. There's gonna be real life things, and I do think we're gonna have a kind of a dark winter in terms of people needing money and prices of food and stuff going up. And if the Democrats can't actually affect people's lives, like I'm hoping that some sort of left coalition can happen. I don't know who's going to be leading that and who's can bring us together, but damn, we need something because the duopoly, yes, is absolutely terrible. We cannot trust them and we cannot give them any more power. But it feels like we're stuck, of course.
Yeah, I'm just talking to my fam now because we wrap up the last part of this by some questions. Um, let's see what else we can find. People are suffering too much to have fun watching Obama smile a day while serving nothing but platitudes. Dude, the neoliberal establishment love this shit. Like that's what I don't get. Like they still talk about January 6th, and honestly, there's like the people that like focus only on like what Ben Shapiro says, right? Like they would like do a reaction video on Dave Rubin or something like that, or they talk about these things. Like I tie all these issues together and make sure that we bring up the climate crisis, make sure we bring up militarism. So when I talk about like the charlatans like Obama, I will make sure that there's a key element on policy there. But a lot of people, they were talking about deeply unserious shit. Like you got the entire right wing who are melting down about Bidberg right now. Like that's your concern. You got the neoliberal establishment that are still talking about January 6th right now. This is their concern. It's just a lot of deeply unserious shit. So I see a lot of love for Chris Hedges. I need to get him. I've been trying to reach out and get him on the show because I like people got to give it to Chris Hedges. Chris Hedges was right. What Chris Hedges said about Bernie, I remember like the reason why I was wrong about Bernie and my assessment of what his possibilities of winning and what he could do for the left. But the reason why I didn't like shut out people who was criticizing Bernie, there were a lot of people who like shut out people who criticized Bernie. Like a lot of people who were like fuck Chris Hedges, fuck Jimmy Dore, fuck anyone who criticized Bernie in the squad. I didn't do that because I learned my lesson from Obama. So even when I liked Bernie, there was a point where I liked Bernie. I was campaigning for him, but I hear what Chris Hedges said, and I was like, damn, I didn't think about it like that. Like, damn, he might be right, but I think he's right, but I'm gonna keep going on this path and see what's going on here. But Chris Hedges was one of the people that helped me formulate like why Bernie is like actually kind of problematic and killing revolutionary spirit and sheep herding people back to the Democratic Party. I actually explained this before, and I will get your thoughts on this, Courtney. We'll wrap up here soon, but there was actually a poll that was done during the Obama era that showed that the Democratic Party is losing millennials in droves. I still remember that story because I was like, yeah, finally. When I read the story, like people finally see it through the Democratic Party. It's an older article. I'm gonna see if I can find it because I remember I had to save. But it's an article from years ago that said young people are leaving the party, and this is because Barack Obama's failures, right? Because young people were excited about Obama. So we went. This is the cycle that I just told you guys about. They were excited about Barack Obama. He got in charge, and they got pissed off at him. So, and this is what led to the red wave during the Obama years, the 1,000 seats that he lost. This is directly because young people was pissed off at Obama. right? So young people at that point were already starting to become done with the Democrat Party. Then what happened? Bernie Sanders, 2016. Bernie Sanders ran, got a ton of young people like me excited for electoral politics again. And the thing is, this his final act didn't work on me because I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016, but it worked on a lot of people. I promise you, there's a lot of young people who probably would not have voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 if Bernie did not run. Because if Bernie didn't run, they was done with politics. So Bernie got on the scene, got a ton of young people engaged, and she herded them back to the Democrat Party. And this is what Chris Hedges was warning about. And then when Bernie ran again, Chris Hedges said, I don't know why you guys decided the same thing's gonna happen. And I was like, man, Chris Hedges, you negative asshole. I was like, we can do it.
Negative, he's real. Damn, I never heard him say that about Bernie. I always just love Chris Hedges talking about just class solidarity and his.
Let's see if I can find it.
Perspective of that. Yeah, I never saw that what he said about Bernie, but I mean,
I'm gonna see if I can find something quickly.
One of the things I always love that Chris Hedges talks about, though, is just they don't need to have a meeting. They don't need to like do anything. They go to the same elite schools. They're in the same elite honoraries and sororities and fraternities and all these things, and they know what policy they need to pass for rich people.
This the title of this said Bernie just wanted to be part of the club and failed us. I remember this. I remember when he was talking about this as well. But once again, I think I deserve props because I talked about this with Misty, Comrade Misty from Bishop. Like she on FHO a lot. She on Slow today. Comrade Misty, because she took a lot of heat because she was going hard against Bernie, and I'm like, you gotta at least give me props because I never unfollowed you. I never was pissed off at you. I was never pissed off at people who criticize Bernie because my mindset for even then was like, even when I like Bernie, I was like, bro, I don't give a fuck if you criticize a politician. Like, as long as you're not criticizing them from the right, like if you criticize Bernie from the right, I'll get your ass. But if you had a substantive critique of Bernie on foreign policy, I was like, I'm not gonna get mad at you for that.
Right.
Maybe I should play something.
Correct.
I want to see if we can get a good gem because he talks about Bernie a lot, and his critique was on point. Everything he said about Bernie turned out to be true. Every single thing. He became a sheepdog and the biggest PR agent for Joe Biden.
Yeah,
was a great consumer advocate who.
No, I ain't gonna watch this. I think that's too much. I want to see if I can find an article. Because this is another one. Once again, I ain't gonna watch it. This is another one he made. Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has failed us, and he just want to be part of the club. May 2020. So once again, I didn't watch it. Maybe I'll do another stream. We get near the end. Maybe I'll do another stream. We watch some Chris Hedges. But you guys see, he was calling this for a long time, and I was in denial. And then we got Keisha in the house. How you doing, Keisha?
I want to hear this Bernie thing.
Oh, he's not showing it. We're saving it for a new
thing. Do you guys want to see it? I'll show it if you guys want to. I didn't have that plan.
Yeah, I just don't know if there's a clip or whatever from it, but I mean, I love Chris Hedges.
Yeah, it just fuck it. We watch a few minutes. I don't have a good starting point, so you guys bear with me for a second. Let's just see. Hopefully, we find a gem real quick. So we gotta watch this one. It said Chris Hedges, Bernie Sanders failed us, and he just wanted to be part of the club. So let's see if we find a good gem out of this.
Knew what they would do, and he wasn't wrong. So we have.
Can you guys hear it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To begin to do what Extinction Rebellion is doing, which is shut the damn system down. And even that may not work. Well, I think the left in Europe and the left in the United States are two different entities. And the left in Europe, and you still have communist parties in Europe, fairly strong in France and Italy. You have the Workers' Party. I'm not an expert on Germany, and I'm not going to pretend that, but you do have.
I'm going to try to send ahead to see if I can get something on Bernie here.
Yeah.
Pushed Bernie before the event.
Oh, here we go.
I was there.
So I'll rewind a few seconds here, and then let's see, because his takes on Bernie was so good. Like I still like Chris Hedges. He was just hurt my feelings. He just hurt my feelings. Like, damn, that was a good point. Anyway, let's watch this point.
Bernie Sanders should receive some criticism. And part two, do you think left intellectuals or the left overall has failed to provide a vision to the population?
So in 2016, I did an event with Bernie Sanders and Bill McKibben, Naomi Klein, and the Socialist City Councilwoman from Seattle, Shama Sawan. And Shama pushed Bernie before the event. I was there as to why he wouldn't run as an independent, arguing correctly that we were never going to build an effective political movement in an election cycle, and we were not going to build it within the confines of the Democratic Party. Sanders' answer was that he didn't want to become Ralph Nader. What did that mean? What does it mean?
Could you just mention who Ralph Nader is? Could you just mention who Ralph Nader is for our young viewers in Germany?
Right. Ralph Nader is was a great consumer advocate who exposed corporate power, the misuse of corporate power, wrote a series of, he was never in office, but he built a very powerful grassroots movement, wrote most of our major environmental law, the Mine and Safety Act, the Clean Water Act, these 24 pieces of legislation to protect workers and the environment, got a liberal wing of the Democratic Party to pass it through and make it law. And then, of course, with the corporate coup d'etat, to quote John Ralston Saul, that took over American politics, the liberal wing of the Democratic Party was destroyed. It existed only in rhetoric, not in actuality. Nader ran for president several times.
I want to get back to Bernie.
Yeah.
I think because the interview, that's a good job at the interviewer, because a lot of people watching may not know who Ralph Nader is, but I think we know who he is, right?
Yeah,
so, I'm gonna just skip ahead and try and get back to Bernie.
They did to McGovern. People forget George McGovern, our last climate change, which is why I became vegan, and held hearings about the carcinogens and the danger of animal-based products as the mainstay of your diet, and they pushed him out of his Senate seat in South Dakota. So that Bernie knew what they would do, and he wasn't wrong. And so he, I think, naively believed that in the period between 2016 and 2020, he would be a loyal party member, which he was. He was endorsing all sorts of neoliberal Democratic candidates who espoused economic positions that he claims to be dead set against. And of course, after the nomination, when many of his people walked out of I was in Philadelphia with Cornel West. We were in a march with homeless people, several thousand homeless people surrounding the Democratic National Convention Center, appropriately named the Wells Fargo Center. And so Cornel said quite presciently to me, Bernie missed his historical moment. Bernie should have walked out, and he should have spent the intervening years building a third-party movement. Would he have succeeded?
I had to pause that right there. What's your guys' take on that? Because that's super significant. Because he said, I didn't remember that until I saw this now. Cornel West told Chris Hedges that Bernie missed a massive opportunity because he should have quit the party and run third party. Yeah. This is what Dr. Cornel West said. This is what the same thing that like Jimmy Dore said that people get freaked out about. But this is Dr. Cornel West. This is what Chris Hedges believed too. What's your guys' thoughts?
It would have been a drop the mic moment. That would have really done something for Bernie. And it would have given us, it's like, if you're not going to start the party now, then when are you going to start it? And if not start it with a bang, then that would have, we already had good momentum, but that would have really done something. That would have been a ballsy move, and that would have shown a lot. Ugh, wow, it's crazy how right he is, though.
Yeah, and once again, there's a lot of people get mad at me for making critiques of Bernie that come from Chris Hedges and Dr. Cornel West, who they claim to respect. But you see how there's an element of classism there, where they allowed to make that because they come from academia. But if you're poor, if you're come from working class or you're activist, you can't make those same critiques. Because what Dr. Cornel West told me when he was on our show, I'm gonna show you guys the clip, because he told me on our show that Bernie does not have a critique of imperialism the way he should, and that Chris Hedges used to give him shit for stumping for Bernie Sanders. And he admitted that during the People's Party conference, he was like, "Damn, I think Chris Hedges kind of had a point." I'm gonna find that clip for you guys.
Yeah.
But I'll watch it for a few more minutes because I think this is pretty fascinating. Let's continue.
I mean, having worked with Ralph and seeing how dirty they play, he would have been able to begin to build something. Instead, he became a tool of the Democratic Party, which, of course, on the eve of the South Carolina, was it South or North Carolina, primary under Barack Obama's direction turned on him. He knew the dirty tricks, as you pointed out. The whole Democratic National Committee was fixed against him in 2016, and yet he said nothing. It was left to Donna Brazile, who had been to expose it. And I think it was political cowardice. And now, of course, he's telling his supporters to vote for Biden.
He should have said something then. It was clear as day that they rigged it. Elizabeth Warren had his back then. I mean, they should have not stopped talking about it. And the other thing just about if he were going to actually run on the outside is he would have to be a Trump-like figure and be willing to say, I am going to take the party in the direction I'm going to take it, or I'm going to leave and take it or leave it, and just build up that coalition. And he didn't even want to tell the public about how much they rigged the election.
Right.
And what do you do with that?
It's so
go
sad
ahead, Keisha.
because he's so old. And it's like, at what point are you trying to have a successor, pass something off, actually do something? Like, he's running on all these things. He got us all hyped up and like, oh, we're gonna really change the world. But at some point you have to pass it off to someone. And this was his moment to start something that we could build, just like Chris said. I mean, tragic.
What is he doing with that massive email list?
Asking us for $27
exactly
once a month.
Ridiculous.
That I don't have.
To pass Joe Biden's agenda,
Right.
not fighting for Medicare for all. So this is during before Joe Biden took the office. I want to hear Chris Hedges speak on this Bernie Sanders now, because I gave Bernie benefit of the doubt, because I said, we haven't seen Bernie and the squad versus a Democratic Party administration. So I will say I want to see how they team up against Joe Biden. But guys, it's worse than I could possibly imagine. Like, I wanted to see Bernie Sanders be the number one resistance to Joe Biden and his neoliberal regime. But it's the exact opposite. He's the PR guy. He's the guy that's sitting on Crystal Ball to twist his tongue to avoid criticizing him. This is the guy who they sent on CNN and MSNBC to do media tours to praise him. So I wanted him to hold Biden accountable, but instead he become a PR arm of Joe Biden. What Joe Manchin is doing is exactly what Bernie can do. Like, do people understand they got the same amount of fucking power?
Exactly.
What's in there?
He really could be. Wow. He did us dirty.
I feel like I missed a lot of good comments. I'm sorry I missed the comments. I'm gonna watch some more Chris Hedges. And then I'm going to show you guys the critique that Bernie made on this show that I still think was extremely fascinating. But I'm going to continue. This is a super good clip. So let's go on here.
He was I think it was a miscalculation, a belief that somehow the Democratic Party establishment would ever allow him to be the nominee. And as he was surging at the beginning, they made it clear what they would do. He was never going to get enough votes, 1,900 and something on the first round. And in the second round, you have quote unquote super delegates. I think there's 700 of them who are appointed by the party. They're all lobbyists and party officials. So it was always fixed. And Bernie just wanted to be part of the club. I mean, one of the reasons Bernie didn't go after Biden on the campaign trail is because socially, especially his wife, Jane Sanders, they're friends with the Bidens. I think Bernie failed us. We don't have any time left. I mean, because
remember, I end this Chris Hedges clip there. But I remember during the campaign when he was calling Joe Biden his good friend on the election stage, and every real leftist was like, "What the fuck are you doing?
Why?
What are you doing?" And while the Joe Biden campaign was saying that there's no way that Bernie Sanders could defeat Donald Trump, but the poll showed that people view that as the number one most important item. You have Bernie Sanders like, "Yeah, I think Joe Biden could beat Trump." Meanwhile, Biden was like, "Yeah, there's no way Bernie could beat Trump." What kind of fucking idiot campaign are you running? And by the way,
Trump himself was like, "Ooh, I hope Bernie doesn't get it because he actually has a base."
Right.
I mean,
and you guys know who gave them that bad advice? Pramila Jayapal. It came out that Pramila Jayapal, Chuck Rocha, and Ro Khanna was behind the scenes telling Bernie Sanders they're the one who convinced him to drop out early, and they're also the one who convinced him to go easy on the Democratic Party establishment, go easy on Joe Biden.
God,
And
all coming together. Like
meanwhile, you have Breonna Joy Gray. Once again, I reported this on my old small YouTube channel. You have Breonna Joy Gray, who was in the campaign, saying we need to go offensive, and they didn't listen to her. And to see what happened. And so, to continue Chris Hedges' criticism, I'm gonna cut that video off there. He explains how they just failures as leftist leaders who has this massive movement they could be mobilizing, but they shepherded that movement to the Democratic Party. Once again, I told you guys, imagine if Bernie Sanders and AOC utilized their massive email list. AOC utilized her 12.7 million followers to stand in solidarity with Line 3 and organize direct actions.
Exactly.
Said anything about dozing or anything. But what I was going to say is it's interesting if all you have to do, now we have hindsight. You can literally look at what Bree Joy is talking about. Bree Gray, I'm going to say it wrong. BJG is talking about. She's still always talking about Medicare for all. She's still asking the tough questions about what's going on. But then you look at Jayapal and you look at Ro Khanna, they're giving compliments to Joe Biden and telling everybody that this is a great bill. So I very much do believe that, because look at who's still fighting for us to be getting these things and actually putting the pressure on and asking tough questions. And look who is capitulating and just like, well, we're getting some good stuff, even though we're getting absolute garbage. Wow, that is eye-opening.
Yeah, see? And a lot of people, you have Pramila Jayapal, who wrote the Medicare for All bills in the House. But she's not even fighting for the bill that she wrote. She apologized for the guy and gave the guy A who said he would veto your bill.
Ridiculous.
He lied about $15 minimum wage. You're not even getting a public option. You guys not getting prescription drug reform. You guys not getting criminal justice reform. You remember the things you guys pretend to care about? And like JB Font said, my brother JB, check out his show, the JB Font Show. The Dems Party is a party of bamboozlers and con artists. Amen, JB. It's a giant party, and they both are in on it. They both are in on it. I want to show you guys this because I told you guys I had we had Dr. Cornel West on, and he said something that was extremely profound on the show. Maybe if we were like a bigger media, it probably would have made news. But you had Dr. Cornel West on our show. He calls out Bernie Sanders for being weak on imperialism. And this is the same clip. Remember I told you guys where Chris Hedges told him, like, yo, you shouldn't be stunning for Bernie. Listen to what Cornel West had said in response to Chris Hedges as well. I thought it was probably. Anyway, just watch the clip, Devin.
Reinforces their progressive wing, but it's still a progressive wing that can be crushed any minute. We saw him crush Bernie twice. And Christopher Hedges and others, my dear brother Chris, he was telling me Brother West, you out there doing 112 events for Bernie the first time, 120 the next time. I love you to death, but I don't think you ought to be doing that kind of work because you got other energy you can be doing nothing. I said, well, at this moment, this might be the best way to educate people, get people exposed to new ways of looking at the world and so forth and so on. But more
now, so that is what his response to Chris Hedges was. I also said, once again, you guys see my criticism of Bernie, and all you guys know, I quit my job. I canvassed for Bernie in multiple states. When people ask me if I regret that, I always say no. Even though I got a lot of criticism of that, because I used electoral politics in that instance to radicalize my community. And that's what Cornel was saying. He said, yeah, I agree with you, Chris. But maybe there was an opportunity to drag a lot of people to the left, which we did, despite the fact that Bernie Sanders and the squad and the progressives will continue to shepherd the movement to the right. So there was two factions, and this is why I don't shy away from lefty quote unquote infighting, because it has to happen.
I mean, Cornel, I'll give Cornel West. He's definitely on point with this, and he's interesting. Like one of the few people who I think will say things like this in this type of forum when he's at least talking to the common folk. Like when he was talking for the People's Party, was that the thing that we were watching? He was like, I'm not voting for Joe Biden. I mean, he made it very plain. So I definitely appreciate, I mean, I think he's right that probably they needed that Bernie momentum, but I like this back and forth of Chris keeping him loyal though. So I'm interested to see what next.
Once again, I admit I got a lot of respect for Dr. Cornel West. That's pretty well known. But that says a lot about Cornel West, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Because he had Chris Hedges in his ear telling him Bernie's a piece of shit, but he didn't cancel him like a lot of immature, deeply unserious leftists. What they do to me because they hear what I say about Bernie. There are a lot of people who love me because I was canvassing for Bernie Sanders, and then I start criticizing Bernie AOC. They're like, "Oh, fucking red, brown, fash."
I mean, look, if anybody is able to criticize someone, you were there in the trenches. You gave your time. You know what I'm saying? Like you should be able to criticize whoever you want to. And it has to be criticism. Otherwise, we're never going to grow.
And a lot of these boutique leftists, they didn't realize they were talking to the wrong man. Because if you told me not to criticize people, I'm gonna be more likely to criticize them. I'm telling you that. So that's exactly what happened. Like I had people like, "How dare you criticize Bernie AOC?" Like, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna do it again. But anyway, let's continue with the critique that Dr. Cornel West had, which is essentially rooted in the same critique that I have, which is why I was extremely surprised. That's why I cut this clip. If we was bigger, maybe it may have made some headlines, but this was Cornel West calling him out for being weak on imperialism. I'll rewind it just a little bit, but continue. I'm gonna play it to the end. I think what he says is very important.
But I don't think you ought to be doing that kind of work because you got other energy can be done. Nothing. I said, well, at this moment, this might be the best way to educate people, get people exposed to new ways of looking at the world and so forth and so on. But more than likely, he will get crushed because the neoliberals will come together. Get a phone call from Obama, Biden, Pete, Amy, boom, they all come together to crush him because in November looked like we had it. I mean, with Nevada, looked like we had a chance for a while, you see. But even Bernie himself doesn't have a substantive critique of imperialism. No.
You guys hear that?
Critique of imperialism.
Oh, here it is.
Himself doesn't have a substantive critique of imperialism. No, not at all. He's got a critique of right-wing xenophobic leaders in Israel, Netanyahu, but that's a very, very low bar.
Yep. That's a very low bar. And when it comes to it, Ilhan Omar and Jamar Bowman voted for that country to have weapons. Let's hear what Dr. Cornel West has to say about that.
If I can't criticize Netanyahu, then go on and join Trump's party and just do it American style. And the Israeli left has no strong left either. And so the Palestinians find themselves subject to this vicious treatment of domination and occupation and subordination and subjugation. And you say, hey, this Palestinian baby got the same value as a Jewish baby or black baby or white baby, what Brother James was talking about. Not one, remember the Democratic Party can say one word? When 550 Palestinian babies are killed in 50 days, they can't say one word. That's sick. If that happened to Jewish babies, there ought to be voices, my voice, your voice, all of our voices would be heard for Jewish babies. Rightly so, because we care about Jewish babies. But when it's Palestinian babies, and it's just a few voices like ourselves, and no Democrats can say a word, then we know they're sick. Spiritually, morally, that is sick.
That is sick. And by the way, I want to get your guys' take on this. This is why I go after Jamal Bowman and Ilhan Omar, because they voted for weapons deals for Israel. The squad coordinated their votes to give them more funding. That is sick, coming from Dr. Cornel West. Now you guys know why I criticize them? What you guys thought?
Absolutely. I mean, not surprising. Look, they also voted to increase, Capitol police funding, where it's this, if we can just be so callous and claim to care about people, I think that people maybe aren't watching all the time. It's really, I'm so glad we have social media. That's all I have to say, because they are really trying to do like the runaround on some of these votes and saying one thing over here with these votes not aligning with their values. And that should be so easy. Like, that's why we vote for them.
Yeah, and that should have been, that would have been another, God, just so many missed opportunities. I mean, like Cornel West said, there's there's not a question of, you know, whether or not it's right or wrong. I don't know. I just still,
Right.
I feel like it's such an easy argument that, you know, this Palestinian thing, and it just seems like, you know, people just love to make it into something bigger than it is. It's people killing people that they don't need to be in any kind of skirmish whatsoever. And if you read up on the history of it, you're like, what is this? Why is this even happening? It seems like it would be an easy one for them to make the proper choice on.
But clearly they're going after a career and not what's right. That's what it seems to me. That's what it shows.
We talked about young people before. You had a bunch of young people volunteer and help Jamal Bowman win just for him to vote, just like Elliot Engel.
What was the point? Right.
Guys, I'm dead serious. Show me the vote that Jamal Bowman has thus far that would have been different than Elliot Engel. I'm not saying that I prefer Elliot Engel over him. I'm just telling you, there has been no difference thus far. Show me the vote. Show me the vote. That actually mattered, I should say, because they did a affirmative vote over they all voted no on the bill, on the shitty infrastructure bill we all knew that was going to pass anyway. But they always vote.
They've done. Oh my god.
They only coordinate their vote when there's no way they're going to stop the neoliberal agenda. But anyway, we can go all day. It's always fun to have you guys on here. I want to give you guys a chance. Any last words, Courtney and Keisha? I want to get both of you guys in. And anything you want to say about your channel, any news, or any just general last thoughts that you want to leave us with?
Okay, well, right now we like to, touch on politics from all different angles, and we just watched Impeachment from FX, American Crime Story, and I just feel like it's not getting a lot of play because it's about the Democrats, and there are a lot of details about the Clintons and what went on behind the scenes with Monica Lewinsky, and so we're putting out kind of just a review of that, and that was really fun to talk about if you want to talk about some 90s politics. What else?
Yeah, there's a lot of inside details.
With the Monica Lewinsky thing, I remember this shows and this is a theme that I always want to make sure I highlight, is the depravity of the ruling class. So I am a 90s kid. I'm a young millennial, I should say. So I remember the trial clearly, but I was a child. A child, right? Monica Lewinsky was 20 years old, right? So she was like 22?
Right? Yeah,
she was like 21, 20. Yeah, 21.
Mm-hmm. Guys, I'm 30 now. So I looked at this case because I remember when this case first happened. It was like, the president got a blowjob, ha. Because I was a kid, I didn't know fucking anything.
Right.
But now
got it like that. Yeah.
Now that I'm 30, I'm like, bro, it was the president of the United States.
Right. Exactly. It is crazy how differently we're looking at it now. I mean, I was
she was 20,
98, so I was, almost her age, but I'm looking at it very differently now. We did her bad too.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so make sure you guys check out their video on that, because that once again that highlights the depravity of our culture. Because once again, I fell along with that because I was a kid. I thought it was fun, but now as an adult, I'm like, bro, how do you guys not see how that fucked up? That 20-year-old was sexually coerced by the most powerful man in the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it's an extremely important case study. I got the Bank channel, Bank Sister channel in the description. Make sure you get.
We love hanging out with you. Learn something. I always learn something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to talk crap about Obama a little bit.
There's nothing I love more than talking shit with Obama with some black leftist comrades. So that's what Fred Hampton Leftist is about, is because there was this giant void of there's like no real black leftist voices, and if they are, they're scattered. They're scattered, or you gotta have elite academia. Like we play Cornell West. Like Cornell West, he has the ticket. Like he's invited. Like Brianna Joy Gray, we love Brianna Joy Gray and Dr. Cornell West, right? But they're invited because they're Ivy League.
Right.
But there's this giant gap of like proletariat, working class, black leftists that, despite what a lot of people think, even though they don't know they think this, we have a lot to say. We're smart. And once again, the subconscious bias, I talked about this with Sabby a long time ago, that the reason why you got a lot of people who listen to a lot of white commentators, because they inherently think, oh, black commentator, he probably don't know what he's talking about.
Right.
That's the bias. That's the bias. So we want to break that. And we want to platform as many strong black leftist voices. So keep it up. And I think we're gonna have you on the General Strike Summit, right? I don't know if
Hell
we got any.
Yeah.
We're gonna plant some trees this weekend, and we're gonna be there. General strike.
Yeah, we figure out because we have guys, the General Strike Summit is gonna be so hype. Like we have so many good guests. Like I'm not gonna sit here and like read the whole schedule off on you, but like it's a 3-day pro labor event. We having labor organizers there. We having a lot of influential lefty media figures as well. We got a lot of people who push and advocate for mutual aid. So you get in the whole mix. Because another goal of the General Strike Summit is making an argument on why we should have a general strike. So we had the people that can communicate that. We got the people that can educate about how a worker strike work, how mutual aid work. So this is why we wanted this platform. We wanted this platform so we can unite the left to do stuff like this. Because we got the General Strike Summit this weekend, but we can do healthcare summits. You know what I mean? We can do foreign policy. Like this is stuff that we can do moving forward. And this is the solidarity that the left haven't had, because if you look at independent media, it was all about ego. You know what I mean? Who had the most subscribers? Like who had the biggest? So they went. There was no like. It was like all rivalry. We want to end that. That's the new left we talk about. So that's the General Strike Summit. I'm just, you guys can tell I'm like super excited about this.
It's gonna be good. I'm excited. Yeah.
So we probably released the schedule because once again I could read the whole list, but that'll take all fucking day. But we got top tier guests for 3 days. I hope you guys check it out. It's gonna be good. So also tomorrow, straight out politics with CJ. He also do the new left panel usually on the evening, but Wednesday is all about CJ. He got great shows planned tomorrow. Thursday is the Fred Hampton Leftist Roundtable. It usually a great show. We have multiple of the hosts come on there, and then Friday is the start of the General Strike Summit. So it's gonna be a blast. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys check out the Fred Hampton Leftist Patreon, Fred Hampton Leftist on Twitter, and support your local mutual aid. If you want to support us, support Tour for the Poor, donate to Rome, donate to Affinity on Freedom Fighters. Send me some more mutual aid, damn it, so I can plug. You guys know what I'm about. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Take care, guys.